Welcome in to the Roll Tide Rewind. We appreciate you joining us here this morning. At the time of this recording, we're at 981 subscribers. We are so close to 1,000. So if you like what you see, please give us a subscription and a like on this video. But this video is going to be just a bracketology update. Yesterday, the committee released their top 16 seeds. They had Alabama at number 17 unofficially. So this video, we're going to go over how does Alabama become a top 4 seed and how Alabama compares to the teams close around them. So we're going to start off the video. Well, first, congrats. Alabama beat LSU yesterday, 90-83, I believe was the score. Had a good game out of Aiden Sherrill. Good game out of a lot of the team in general. Just a good team win, to fend off a comeback. So it was great to see that. Well, the committee's top 16 seeds released yesterday. 1 seeds, Michigan, Duke, Arizona, Iowa State. These are all in order. Michigan lost to Duke. Iowa State also lost to BYU. You have UConn, you have Houston. Houston lost to Arizona yesterday. Illinois also lost to UCLA. We'll get to that. Purdue just came off a win against Indiana. Florida won yesterday. Kansas lost to Cincinnati. We'll talk about that in just a second. Nebraska won their game. Gonzaga won theirs. Texas Tech won theirs. Michigan State plays today, this afternoon. And then Vandy lost to Tennessee. And then Virginia squeaks by Miami. The first 2 out unofficially were Alabama and Arkansas, mentioned by the committee chair. Some people surprised that Alabama got left out, and I am one of them. But we'll go over everything, and I believe these things change daily. So today, Alabama might be the 4 seed. With Vanderbilt losing, Alabama may have jumped them, but these things change daily. But at the time, this is how the committee saw it. I don't know if Charles Bediako devalued Alabama in this, but I don't really believe they did. The 3 games Alabama won with Bediako were Missouri. They're a bubble team. They also beat A&M, who's a bubble team, close to a bubble team, and then they beat Auburn, who's also a bubble team. So I don't buy into that. If you're saying that Bediako devalued Alabama's wins, well, can we take away the 20-point loss against Florida? You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense to me. We'll go to the next spot. We're going to go over the teams that are too far ahead of Alabama that Alabama won't catch. I like this video. We're seeing how Alabama can be a top 4 seed. So I'm going to go over teams that they could possibly catch. These teams, Alabama will not catch. I am confident in saying that in the last 3 weeks, Alabama is not catching Michigan, Duke, Arizona, Iowa State, Houston, Florida, or UConn. Alabama is not catching any of those schools. I thought I was actually going to tell you about how Alabama could maybe catch UConn in a dream scenario. That's just not happening. They would have had to have lost to Villanova yesterday, and they did not. So we'll go on to the next part of the video where we say these teams are far ahead. There's 2 of them. They're far ahead, but there's a small chance Alabama could catch them if everything were to be perfect in Alabama's scenario. So Kansas is the first one. They just lost to Cincinnati yesterday. Was not a good loss. Not a good loss at all. Kansas now drops to 20-7. Let me pull up. I have stats written down everywhere, guys. Sorry about this. But they're now 20-7. Same record as Alabama. In KenPom, they are ranked 18th. KenPom strength of schedule, they're 3rd. Quad 1, they're 6-6. Quad 2, 8-1. And the net, they are 13th. Alabama, on the other hand, kind of similar. KenPom 19th. The net, they're 20th, whereas Kansas was 13th. In Quad 1, Kansas, like I said, 6-6. Alabama 7-6. Quad 2, 8-1 for Kansas, 7-1 for Alabama. And then strength of schedule, Kansas is 3rd, Alabama is 2nd. Very similar resumes. And then with Kansas's schedule, doesn't get any easier. They're at to play Houston and Arizona, both projected 2 and a 1 seed. Alabama doesn't have to play those types of teams to end the year. And then also add Arizona State, who just beat Texas Tech, and then Kansas State, who does not look good at all. So there's a small chance Alabama catches Kansas. It's now a bigger chance since what just happened yesterday, but something to monitor at Kansas that Alabama could possibly catch. I know that says part 3, meant to say part 2. Sorry about that. We're going to go talk about Illinois. Illinois just lost to UCLA last night. UCLA is not a bad loss at all. It's a quad 1 loss. They're fighting to get in the tournament, but it's a quad 1 loss at the end of the day. Illinois, I don't think Alabama's going to catch, but I wanted to include them in here. They're 22-6. Alabama's 20-7. Ken Palm, they're 4th. Alabama's 20th, so there's a big gap there. Strength of schedule's 11th for Illinois. Like I said, 2nd for Alabama. In the net, they're 4th. Alabama's 20th. Quad 1, they're 7-5. Alabama's 7-6. And then quad 2, they are 5-1. Alabama's 7-1. The only way Alabama could catch Illinois here is the schedule. They lose to Michigan. That puts them at a 7th loss. And then if they drop one of the Oregon or Maryland game, I think it becomes maybe a scenario if Alabama is to win out the regular season games that they could be compared to Illinois and Alabama beat Illinois on a neutral site. So something to keep in mind. There's a chance. Not saying it's going to happen, but there's a chance. Also, disclaimer for this video, the Ken Palm rankings are updated. The net rankings, I went with what the final rankings were as of February 21st, I believe. The quad records I updated based on what they would have been from Saturday, but the website itself will reset today. So some of these might not be so totally correct, but they're going to be similar to what they are today. So just want to put that disclaimer out there. First, we're going to talk about Virginia. The reason I want to talk about Virginia is I feel like a lot of people were upset with the Virginia pick because people thought that Alabama should be above Virginia, and that was a popular one. So we're going to start with them first. So Virginia, Ken Palm 20th. Alabama's is, let me keep that one up so I can always look at it. Ken Palm for Alabama, 19th. So Alabama has the edge there. Net ranking, Alabama 20th. Virginia 16th. Ken Palm strength of schedule. Virginia 75th. Alabama 2nd. That's the big difference here. Quad 1, 5-2. Quad 2, 7-1. Alabama's quad 1 is 7-6, and their quad 2 is 7-1. So Alabama's played way better competition. Virginia's 24-3. Their record's better than Alabama's 20-7, but it's because Alabama has played a such tougher strength of schedule. So this one surprised me that Virginia was ahead of Alabama. Virginia does have some good wins. They beat Louisville on the road. They beat Texas on the road. Alabama did lose to Texas, but other than that, not really a lot of big wins on their resume. They did beat North Carolina beat Virginia. That's right. They had a pretty bad loss to Butler and to Virginia Tech. On Virginia, they have Ugonna Owenzo. I forgot about him. He was an Alabama target a few transfer portals back. They have some good players. They have a good freshman from Belgium, 6'9", averages 16 points per game. De Ritter is his name. He'd be the one Alabama probably would play against if Alabama is spotted with Virginia. But I'm surprised that Virginia was ranked ahead of Alabama and barely squeaked by Miami yesterday. If they would have lost to Miami, I would have said Alabama's easily above them today, but I'm not the committee. Their schedule, though, is going to, I think, work in Alabama's favor a little bit. NC State at home. NC State is getting a lot better as the season's going on. At Duke I don't think it's going to go well. And then Wake Forest, Virginia Tech to end the year. So if they drop NC State and Duke, that's enough to put them behind Alabama. Even just losing NC State, in my opinion, puts them behind Alabama if Alabama keeps steady. So, yeah, Virginia, I was surprised that they were ahead of Alabama. But we'll go on to the next team. We'll go over probably 10 teams here and then go over Alabama at the end. And I'll keep comparing all this stuff to Alabama's numbers. Texas Tech, they were a popular one too because they were ranked 13th. Let me go back here so I can put that number up there. They were the first 4 seed, and a lot of people were surprised by this because of JT Topin being hurt and him not being available. And the committee answer was, well, they were a 3 seed, so we dropped them to a 4. It's fair. Ken Palm, they're 16th. Alabama 19th. Strength of schedule 6th. Alabama 2nd. Net ranking 17th. Alabama's 20th. Quad 1, 6-7. Alabama 7-6. Quad 2, 3-0. Alabama 7-1. So schedule favors Alabama. Why would people be surprised by Texas Tech being above Alabama? There's a big surprise because they don't have their best player. And now we'll go to their schedule to end the year. They have to play Cincinnati, who is on a roll right now. They were probably not going to be a tournament team. They started out, I think, 11-12. But now they've rolled off some great wins in a row. They've just beat Kansas by 16 points at Fog Allen. They also got to go at Iowa State. TCU's playing on the bubble. And then BYU's hopefully maybe getting hot at the right time. So Texas Tech has a hard end to the season without their best player. JT Topin, 21.8 points per game, 10.8 rebounds per game. He was playing himself into the Wooden Award winner. Now it's Cam Boozer's award to lose, but now Topin was playing like himself into the award, and now they're not going to have him. So this one confusing, but I think this one will sort itself out, in my personal opinion. They still have good players, Christian Anderson, Donovan Atwell, and then they'll have LeJon Watts. Hopefully, if for Texas Tech standpoint, hopefully he steps up in JT Topin's absence. But this one was confusing, but based on how they viewed Texas Tech before Topin's injury, I guess it's fine to drop him just a seed. But we'll see what they do with Cincinnati and Iowa State. This is a hard schedule to end, so we'll know a lot about Texas Tech once this schedule ends. And then also the Big 12 tournament, there's going to be a multitude of quad one opportunities, especially the Big 12 tournament. I added BYU actually last night. I worked night shift last night. Guys, please give me credit in the comments. Tell me how great I am. I'm quite kidding, of course. But I added BYU last night because their win against Iowa State kind of changes things a little bit. BYU, they're 20-7. They are 21st in KenPom. Alabama's 19th. We also have KenPom strength of schedule is 12th to Alabama's 2nd. Net 21st, Alabama's 20th. Quad 1, 6-6, or Alabama 7-6. Quad 2, 5-1, Alabama 7-1. So Alabama has the edge over BYU. But the reason I added BYU is because if they can end hot, that could change things. They have AJ DeBonsa, they have Robert Wright, they have great players on their team. But let me backtrack. AJ DeBonsa and Robert Wright are great players. Besides those two, not much production. It's just a two-man show. Without Richie Saunders, it's really just a two-man show. They do have some good wins against Villanova, Wisconsin, Iowa State. Losses are all pretty good. Oklahoma State probably was their worst loss, but they lost to Arizona twice, UConn, Texas Tech, Kansas, and Houston. Really good teams. BYU ends with UCF, West Virginia, at Cincy, and Texas Tech. The Texas Tech one being the big one. But that's a doable schedule, in my personal opinion. West Virginia is fighting for the bubble, so is UCF. All the Big 12, I feel like, is fighting for the bubble, and then the Big 12 tournament. So watch out for BYU. I think they could maybe surprise some people. I'm not saying that they're going to surprise people because they're somehow good out of nowhere, but they weren't talked about at the in the seeding reveal. So just someone to keep an eye on. We'll go into Gonzaga. Gonzaga, if everybody remembers, played Alabama earlier this year, and now they beat them. And that's really Gonzaga's best win. String the schedule, 87th. Alabama's the 2nd. KenPom 10th, Alabama 19th. Net ranking 5th, Alabama is 20th. That's a big discrepancy there. Quad 1, 6-1. Quad 2, 6-0. Whereas Alabama's is 7-6, Quad 1, and then 7-1 for Quad 2. Gonzaga is 15-1 versus the Quad 3 and 4. Their conference doesn't really do them justice with strength of schedule. But the one Quad 3 loss is Portland, which is a really bad loss. That really knocks Gonzaga down. If they wouldn't have lost that game, they would not be the last 3 seed. They would probably be almost a 2. We know their players, Graham EK, almost averaging a double-double, a 20-point double-double. And then Tyon Grant Foster, who played at Grand Canyon when Alabama played them. But, yeah, Gonzaga, I don't know if I was going to catch them. It could be close. Well, let me see. Hold on. I think I said Gonzaga was the last 3. Okay, they were the last 3 seed. I just wanted to be sure. But they only have 2 more games left. Portland, who they lost to, but it's going to be at home. Probably going to be a blowout. At St. Mary's, potentially a loss. If they lose that game, potentially we could see some shifting. And then they have the conference tournament where they probably max will play 2 games just based on how the tournament works. I don't know if I was going to catch Gonzaga. The metrics love Gonzaga, but a loss to St. Mary's can change things, especially if Alabama wins out. Now, if they deem their resume similar, Gonzaga did beat Alabama, so just keep that in mind as well. Let's go to St. John's. St. John's is getting a lot better as the season has gone on. They are 22-5, and their numbers are comparable to Alabama. KenPom 22nd, net 19th, and the net they are 20th. Quad 1, St. John's is 4-4. Quad 2, they're 8-0. And then Alabama, like we said, Quad 1, 7-6. Quad 2, 7-1. Strength of schedule, 45th to Alabama 2nd. So that's the big discrepancy there. Alabama's above St. John's right now. And also, if they deem the resumes comparable, Alabama beat St. John's. For St. John's, though, they have good wins. They beat UConn. That's one of the best wins in the country. They also have a good win against Villanova. And for them, guess what? They're about to play their 2 best teams at UConn and then Villanova. If they win those 2 games, they're playing themselves close to a 4 line. And Some just need to be aware of. However, they do have a bad loss to Providence. That's a quad 3 loss. They also lost to Kentucky, Auburn, Iowa State, and Alabama. So those losses aren't so bad. We played St. John's. We know Ejiofor, 16 points per game. Bryce Hopkins. You also have Ian Jackson, who's transferred from North Carolina. They got some good players in the Big East tournament. There's not going to be many options. The Big East is really down this year to expand their resume. But if you beat UConn and Villanova again, you're definitely playing yourself close to a 4 line, because St. John's did schedule semi-hard in the non-conference play. Their strength of schedule is down a lot because of conference play. But yeah, I would have Alabama above St. John's right now. Let's go to the Big Ten teams. Let's go to Purdue. We know what happened when Alabama played Purdue last time. It did not go so well. For Purdue, Ken Pom above Alabama, 7th. Alabama was his 19th. Ken Pom strength of schedule. Purdue is his 8th to Alabama's 2nd. The Big Ten schedule is tough. Net ranking 7th to Alabama's 20th. Quad 1, 8-5 to Alabama's 7-6. Quad 2, 3-0 to Alabama's 7-1. 22-5 record, Alabama 20-7. I don't foresee Alabama catching Purdue. Purdue has wins over Texas Tech, Nebraska. They almost blew it against Nebraska, but those are really the 3 best wins they have. They have good losses to Iowa State, and then Illinois, Indiana, and then Michigan. Indiana's a bubble team, and they also lost to UCLA. UCLA is also a bubble team. So, but they've looked a little bit, shaky down the stretch. And then so in the season, they got to play Michigan State, but they get them at home. At Ohio State, Northwestern, then Wisconsin at home. Wisconsin's getting hot at the right time. So realistically, I see Purdue maybe winning all these games. If at most they lose 2 of them. And then that would put you at a scenario of Alabama wins out, that they have the same record. But I don't see Alabama catching Purdue. The Big Ten tournament's also more chances for them to get quad 1 wins, because you got Purdue, you got Illinois, Nebraska, Michigan State, Michigan all at the top right there. It's very much included together. And then we know Purdue, Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Renn, Fletcher Lawyer, CJ Kotz, they got those guys. So I don't see Alabama catching Purdue, but barring a collapse, of course. Nebraska's an interesting one. Nebraska, if everybody remember, they started the season off, I think, 20-0. Yeah, they started off 20-0 and have been 3-4 since. But Ken Pom 12th, like I said, I'll repeat Alabama's every single time. Ken Pom for Nebraska's 12th, Alabama's is 19th. Strength of schedule 50th to Alabama's 2nd. That could be the key here. Net 11th to Alabama's 20th. 5-4 quad 1, Alabama's 7-6. Quad 2, 7-0 to Alabama's 7-1. Strength of schedule is the key here. Nebraska ends the season against Maryland. I don't see them losing to Maryland. At USC's dealt with a lot of injury problems. I know Alabama fans, injuries have been the big part of the season. I think they have over 80-something games missed by scholarship players, but USC somehow has it worse. UCLA getting maybe hot at the right time. That could be a loss there. And then they play Iowa. Iowa just beat Nebraska. For Nebraska's losses are to Michigan, Illinois, Purdue, and Iowa. Not so bad losses. Iowa's playing themselves hopefully out of the bubble, maybe to a 6 seed. Nebraska's got some good players, especially Price Sanford, 17 points per game, shoots 40% from 3. I know Nate Oates would love to have a guy like that in his system, but there's potential to catch Nebraska if Alabama can do well winning. If they win out and Nebraska were to drop UCLA and Iowa, or even just UCLA maybe, because the strength of schedule part matters, and Alabama's is significantly higher than a lot of other teams. So something to keep an eye on. This is a maybe. I don't maybe foresee it, but it's a maybe, because Nebraska has been falling down to the 3 line since the season has kind of gone on and on. Let's go to Michigan State. Michigan State, 21-5. We have Ken Pom 9th to Alabama's 19th. We have strength of schedule 29th to 2nd. So there's a little discrepancy there. Net ranking 12th to Alabama's 20th. And then we have 6-4 quad 1, 7-6 for Alabama, 5-1 quad 2 to 7-1 for Alabama. So Michigan State, I think Alabama has the potential to catch. Michigan State does have wins over Arkansas and Kentucky like Alabama does. They also beat North Carolina when Caleb Wilson was healthy. Had a pretty bad loss to Minnesota, lost by 21 points to Wisconsin, also lost to Michigan. They play Ohio State this afternoon, but then at Purdue, at Indiana, and at Michigan. That is rough. I think I foresee if Alabama wins the games they should, when these down the stretch, I think Alabama could jump Michigan State. Michigan State was, let me go back here. Michigan State was the second, fourth seed. So they were number 14 overall. Alabama was number 17 overall. There's motion for that to switch. I think there's potential for Alabama to catch Michigan State. Jeremy Fears and Cohen Carr are incredible players for Michigan State. And they also have a player named Cam Ward, for everybody that wants to know. Just little facts that I figured out. Vanderbilt. People were very taken aback that Vanderbilt was ranked above Alabama, even though Vanderbilt did beat Alabama, but the metrics really, like Alabama's strength of schedule, the wins they've had recently, it kind of threw everybody off. So Ken Palm 13th, Alabama 19th. Strength of schedule 24th, Alabama 2nd. Net 15th, Alabama's 20th. Quad 1 7-5 to Alabama 7-6. Quad 2 6-1 to Alabama's 7-1. 21-6 overall for Vanderbilt. Alabama's 20-7. So the thing with Vanderbilt that a lot of people are having an issue with is for Alabama, they've had two really good wins away from home. St. John's and Illinois are two great wins away from home that you went at St. John's and then you won in Chicago against Illinois. It's essentially a road game. Vanderbilt doesn't really have that. Vanderbilt did start 16-0. They have wins against UCF, St. Mary's, SMU, and Alabama. Their best win is against Alabama. Losses to Texas, Florida, Arkansas. Oklahoma is not a great loss. Missouri's a bubble team. Tennessee, they lost to yesterday. Pretty competitive game, though. To end the season, you got to play Georgia. Georgia's on the bubble. They're basically playing for the right to continue the season. But then you have 3 straight road games in the SEC play. It's kind of unfortunate here. At Kentucky, Kentucky is trying to get it right. They're struggling, and Vanderbilt did smoke them the first time they played. But I think that it's hard to win on the road in the SEC, let alone 3 games in a row. I think they drop at least one of those. I think at Tennessee probably. But if Indy drops another one, like I'm confident right now if they did the rankings today, Alabama would be ahead of them with that loss yesterday. But we'll see. It's a matter of time. SEC tournament as well goes into play as well. But yeah, Vanderbilt one was a little confusing. Oh, what's it hit? Times 2. Arkansas is the next team, if I can ever figure this out. There we go. Arkansas is the next one. They were basically said to be number 18 is what they kind of mentioned. Very similar metric numbers, 17th in Ken Palm to 19th for Alabama. Net 18th to Alabama's 20th. Ken Palm strength of schedule 9th to Alabama's 2nd. Quad 1 6-7 to Alabama 7-6. Quad 2 5-0 to Alabama 7-1. Very similar metric numbers, and Alabama beat them. So it's going to give the edge to Alabama. Schedule wise, Texas A&M at home. I see them winning. A&M is going to be a more desperate team because they're kind of playing near the bubble. At Florida is very tough. If you beat Florida, you kind of jump to the 4 line, I would say. That's a good enough win to jump you. Texas is playing on the bubble, and so is Missouri. So they have 3 teams that are playing on the bubble, and you're going at the best team in the SEC. So this is a hard end for Arkansas because there's 3 teams that are desperate. And I always talk about desperateness with this because that's true. It's almost March. You got to win these games. Arkansas does have some good wins against Louisville, Texas Tech, Tennessee, and Vandy. Lost to Michigan State, Duke, Houston, Auburn, Georgia, and Alabama. We know they got dudes, Darius Acuff, Billy Richmond, Malik Thomas, Trayvon Brazile, and also former Alabama player Nick Pringle on the team. But as of right now, it's kind of neck and neck between Alabama and Arkansas. It's just Alabama got the win over them. That's really the main difference there. Tennessee, I know this graphic looked weird. I somehow messed it up when I made it. But for Tennessee, Ken Palm, 14th to Alabama's 19th, net 19th to Alabama's 20th. Ken Palm strength of schedule 13th, Alabama's 2nd. Quad 1 5-7, whereas Alabama's 7-6. Quad 2 6-0, where Alabama's 7-1. So very similar. They didn't have Tennessee on the same. They didn't mention Tennessee in the committee reveal, but Tennessee needs to be mentioned. They're a good team. They beat Houston, Louisville, Vandy, and Alabama. Losses are to Kansas, Illinois, Arkansas, Syracuse, not a good loss. Kentucky twice. Realistically, if Tennessee didn't blow 2 double-digit halftime leads against Kentucky, they'd be a 4 seed, probably a 3 seed. Those 2 losses have kind of set them back just a little bit. But They end the season at Missouri, bubble team that needs to win. Alabama, that's the big game for Alabama and Tennessee. At South Carolina, they'll have no issue, and then Vanderbilt at home. So they have enough resume boosters here that could boost them to a 4 seed, in my personal opinion, if they were to win. And now we will end with Alabama. So we just compared this metric numbers right here to all these listed teams. We went through Kansas, Illinois, Texas Tech, St. John's, Gonzaga, Vandy, Purdue, Virginia, Michigan State, Illinois, Nebraska. We just went through all those teams, Tennessee, Arkansas, BYU, went through all those teams, comparing Alabama to them. Like I said, I was surprised Alabama wasn't a top 16 seed yesterday, but I think they did it today. They probably would be. We already went through these numbers, but let's go through the schedule and see what Alabama needs to do. So for those teams that I was mentioning in the beginning and say that I don't think Alabama would catch them, if they were to get close, you got to win all 4 of those games. Mississippi State especially, that's just not a good team. A loss like that knocks you down far. But at Tennessee, at Georgia, and Auburn, that's 2 quad 1 games, and I think Auburn's a quad 2. But if you can, realistically, I think Alabama finishes the year probably 3-1. You beat Mississippi State, you lose at Tennessee, but you beat Georgia and Auburn. I think you're putting yourself in a good position to get close to a 4 seed. I think win against Mississippi State, and you also got to let other things sort themselves out. These other teams got to play hard schedules, and some of them are going to get upset too. Like UCLA beating Illinois wasn't supposed to happen. And also you can do good in the SEC tournament, win a game or 2. That could make you up to a 4, a line, possibly up a little bit higher. But yeah, let me know in the comment section what you think about the committee reveal and what you think about Alabama's rest of the way, and if you think Alabama is going to be a top 4 seed when it's all said and done. If you like what you see, please give us a subscription. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers. Really would appreciate it. But until then, I hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and roll